Throughout all of One Piece, we've been following the protagonist known as Monkey D. Luffy. To us, he's the main character. But to the vast majority of the world, he's just another dangerous pirate, who until recently wasn't even considered one of the strongest. And if you tuned into the Reverie this year, the consensus among the content creators in this community is that there's a lot left to be desired from Luffy as a character.
I got news for you, brother.
Granted, a 3 billion berry bounty and Yonko status still paints Luffy as a beast, but again, the majority of this world still has had no contact with him. They know where he's been and what he's done, but they don't know what he stands for. And to some extent, neither do we. But not for much longer, because whether you're a citizen from a country who just came out against the world government, or one still under its rule, Luffy is about to come out of Egghead as either the greatest hero or the greatest threat this world has ever seen. And why do I say this? Well, the short answer is agenda.
That's your agenda.
Call me crazy, but I think Luffy should go into the final war as the hero. Like the known, intentional hero. I mean, he's supposed to be fighting against this ancient threat that created and now presides over this world of oppression that everyone's starting to rebel against, his father and brother included. So is it too much to ask for that he goes into it as the hero that everyone's putting their chips on? I don't think so. There are several counters to this little agenda of mine. The main threat to this theory is Luffy himself, because Luffy doesn't want to be a hero. He's adamantly stated that he doesn't consider himself the hero because that's just not what he wants to be. He wants to be a pirate. In chapter 634, Luffy and Jinbei get into it about how to go about taking down Hody Jones. Jinbei suggests that he goes into the fight as the hero, and Luffy responds by saying he likes heroes but he doesn't care to be one, because he doesn't want to share his meat with just anybody. If you're at all tapped into the One Piece community, then you've already seen this quote about 100 times by now, so I'm sorry. But I think there might be another way to look at it. Luffy's mind may not have been changed during this conversation, but it is affected, because Jinbei gives Luffy the key to understanding the Fishman struggle here. And in the end, Luffy unofficially makes Fishman Island his first territory. Wow, that is a lot of F. Sure, saving and beating up on fish people is nothing new to Luffy, but when he saved Kami and Sabaody and Nami in Arlong Park, he didn't do so for political reasons. He did it because he wanted to save his friends. It's only when he's about to turn up on Hody that he's finally told what he should be considering before taking action again. And you know what? He reluctantly listens. Because Luffy may act foolish, but trust me, he is no fool. We've seen him understand people's struggles multiple times, especially in moments where it really matters. So we know he can give serious thought to serious subjects. So it's safe to say that even though he chooses to be carefree, Luffy is a master strategist. I'm kidding. What I really mean is that it's safe to say that Luffy's going to go into the final war not only aware of his responsibilities, but aware of the weight that his actions carry. And here's one thing y'all don't get about this line right here. Luffy says he loves heroes but doesn't want to be one, right? But you actually still think it's about some metaphorical meat? Did you forget the end of Wano? No, not that part. But the part where it's spelled out for us that not only is Luffy's devil fruit based off of a god who fought for freedom, but that the will of that god may have been guiding Luffy all along. I know people dislike this idea of Luffy being controlled this whole time by some deity that we were just introduced to, and trust me, that's not where I'm going. Yeah. What we should be focusing on are the implications of Luffy's awakening. In chapter 1046, Kaido tells Luffy that awakening is when your mind and body catch up to your powers. And we now have confirmation that Kaido didn't just mean physical training here, though I'm sure plenty of mental training needs to go into learning something like Rio anyway. It's this small moment with Bonnie at the start of Egghead that shows us just how well Luffy's aspirations line up with the Nika fruit's will. So it's less about Luffy being controlled by Nika, which would kind of go against the whole idea of a warrior of liberation anyway, and more about him being chosen by him. But I'll get to that in a bit. As for now, what I want to establish is the fact that whether or not Luffy wants to play the role of the hero, he kind of does it anyway. Or at the very least, he plays the part of the person who the hero had to rely on to get the job done. However, unlike Skypiea and every other island that the Strats have traveled to, Luffy does not have the luxury of being seen as the bringer of the dawn, by the rest of the world. Basically, Luffy will always be seen as the villain. It's impossible for him to go into the final war as the hero because the world government has taken every opportunity to paint Luffy as this evil mastermind and then take credit for all the good that he's done. Trust me, I get this one. Even now, Morgans is writing a headline about how Luffy's taking Vegapunk hostage or some shit. But the people don't care anymore. And this is partially due to Luffy's efforts in the warlord-ridden nations of Arabasta and Dressrosa, but also due to the Revolutionary Army's work. Not only have Dragon and Company restricted the world government's resources, the revolutionaries have begun to show the world that this good guy, bad guy stuff isn't so black and white. I mean, I guess Luffy's just protecting these islands from other bad pirates, but I'm sure that the world has been exposed to both good pirates and bad marines at this point. And even for the people who haven't seen this firsthand, I'm sure that they can be easily convinced with a single shred of evidence, because as Fujitora and Akainu revealed in Dressrosa, the reputation of the marines and the world government can easily crumble with just a single article. It would just take one lie, or or one truth depending on how you view the world. And even if their reputation is able to survive up until the final war, Luffy's still bound to draw support from all over the world. Not only because he's the grandson of the Marine's greatest hero, but because his father is also the leader of the Revolutionary Army, who at this point is becoming more popular by the day. And the face of their movement is none other than Luffy's brother. I find it hard to believe that people wouldn't support Luffy should he come out one day and take a more concrete stance against the ruling power, especially if they find out that he's a god. And that brings me to the final criticism of this theory. Luffy doesn't need to be anything but the Pirate King. Basically, Luffy's crew,
I call him the crew, by the way,
and Luffy's friends don't ever need him to be a hero. They just need him to beat the boss so that they can all live out their dreams. Now, I think this is the weakest of the counters, but just to be thorough and fair, I do agree that the Straw Hats will need Luffy to take out the main threats and just be their captain. But the thing is, even if he doesn't want to do it for the sake of the world, he'll end up just doing it for his friends. So even if Luffy says he doesn't want people cheering him on, he still wants to help those who do. And that's enough, because each of the Straw Hats are not only tied to their own dreams, they're each tied to a whole island at the very least, which passively reminds Luffy of how important his success is for them and the rest of the world. Because again, at the very least, if we undersell Luffy's efforts as much as possible, he's still doing this, at the very least, for the entire East Blue. And that's just me counting the people on the ship. He's still doing this for everyone he's cool with who's not present right now. Basically, anyone who considers themselves a friend of Luffy is liable to get their government overthrown should they ask him to. And not just in the sense that he'll help them out, but that their needs are now Luffy's needs. As shown in chapter 1045, Luffy needs the will of the others to give him that extra push. And the list of people who rely on Luffy to get the job done grows with every arc. So we're reminded of his influence on the rest of the world and vice versa all the time. Whether he's helping a boy become a Marine, or a chef escaping an arranged marriage, Luffy's actions now send shockwaves throughout the world. Literally now. This is how far Luffy's come as a character. This man's causing quakes more deadly than Blackbeard clapping Lin cheeks. So even if Luffy finds the One Piece, decides the story is way too boring to follow, and raids Marijois just for shits and giggles, he's still gonna have way too many people riding on him just to, He's still gonna have way too many people depending on him to not recognize the role he'll play in the final war. So, to recap, now that Luffy's awakened, he's more tapped in than ever with Nika, and has already started to bring the dawn in fights. His influence as a Yonko, a friend, and a brother will help him man up and finally take a strong position in the final war. And even if he returns from Laugh Tale ignorant, he'll still come out with some type of resolve, because the Pirate King may be free, but he still has responsibilities and the rest of his dream to accomplish.
But wait! There's more!
Because I don't just come with agenda, I bring more, and that's a rarity. I come with a revelation, that post-nut clarity. I discovered something amazing while doing research for this video, and if your name is Monkey D. Luffy, you're gonna hate me for it. Because once again, this little boy needs to man the Chosen One. See, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to Chosen Ones, Luffy is the most chosen of Chosen Ones. And not just in the scope of other shonen protagonists, no. One Piece transcends manga. One Piece transcends comics. One Piece is the epic of our time. Our eon's Iliad. So it's no coincidence that Monkey D. Luffy is a hero that stands above other heroes. And I don't just mean the Caped Crusader. I know people have had their gripes against protagonists suddenly becoming the Chosen One, but I'm here to say that you shouldn't worry one bit. Even if that's not apparent right now, it will be. See, there's this series on YouTube that you should all check out. It's called Trope Talk, and one of their installments covers the Chosen One trope. While doing some research, I stumbled upon this video, and in trying to understand it, I would substitute any lesser known examples with shonen protagonists that I was more familiar with. Only thing is, whenever Red here would explain a different type of Chosen One character, I found myself plugging Luffy in. Every time. According to this video, there are 5 types of Chosen Ones. The first being the Prophecy Chosen One. To quote, a person described in a prophecy. Think Harry Potter or Anakin Skywalker. They learn they're the Chosen One and exactly what they've been chosen for at pretty much the exact same time. And they're not just nebulously chosen. They have a concrete destiny. And usually, they're just about the last one to learn about that destiny. I know, case closed already. Because we already know that the Gomu Gomu no Mi basically chose Luffy, and that the legacy and prophecy of Joy Boy lives on through Luffy. And we also know that Luffy's definitely going to be the last one to learn all of this, or at the very least, learn what his fruit is based on. With respect to Red here, I don't want to copy paste the rest of this video, so I'm just going to paraphrase going forward. The rest of this section goes on to say that the Prophecy Chosen Ones don't normally feel like Chosen Ones, and they tend to be annoyed by their entire life being plotted out for them. In other words, Luffy at Sabaody. I also just find it funny that one of the points here made about prophecies is that no matter what turns they might take, they always come true, which not only describes how destiny in One Piece can be swayed depending on certain outcomes, but also describes Eiichiro Oda's initial 5-year plan for One Piece to end. Anyway, the second variation we have is the literally chosen one, a person who is actively chosen by a sentient entity. While the Nika fruit may have gravitated towards Luffy because of who he is, Shanks literally chooses Luffy because of what he says. So you have your nebulous, at least for now, entity in the fruit, and your literal entity in, I guess, Shanks and the Straw Hat, or Shanks passing the Straw Hat. My only real gripe with this one is that sure, this type of chosen one will normally reject their choosing, which is totally in character for Luffy, right? But it also brings to light that the prophecy and literally chosen ones tend to feel some type of insecurity, and we've never seen Luffy doubt himself. Oh, but I guess one extra that I'd like to touch on from this variant is that sometimes this sentient entity can choose wrong, like choosing the villain before choosing the hero, for example. And while we have no evidence that Imu or someone was initially the previous Gomu Gomu no Mi user, we do know that Ace was basically set up to be Joy Boy before he died. And just to bring this whole conspiracy theory full circle, the only time we've ever seen Luffy doubt himself was just after Marineford, when his brother, Ace, the Prince of the Pirates, was killed. Also, I guess you could make the case that the D-Clan was chosen, and someone like Blackbeard would be an example of taking that wrong route to fulfill the prophecy. But my head hurts and my hair is getting out of hand, so we're moving on. The next variant is the Chosen Wielder, a person chosen by a non-sentient artifact. Again, I'm just gonna go with the devil fruit because until we know how sentient fruits are before consumption, I'm just gonna ride the wave, you know? But also because in the 800 or so years that the fruit has been floating around, it's only ever awakened one time, for Luffy. And if that's not an example of a chosen wielder, I don't know what is. The fourth variant is the Chosen Incarnation. Do I need to say more? Described by Red as a mix between the prophecy and the wielder, this chosen one is born to embody some cosmic whatever, and usually gets some fancy powers and an important fancy job. I'm not even gonna look at the camera anymore and try and be cute because you already know what I'm about to say. Need I say more? Not for real though, I know that Luffy's not born with his ability, but he's technically born with the creativity to wield it, which is why he's like so perfect for it. As for the fifth variant of the chosen one, we have the One True King. Now with Imu's introduction as the secret king of the world, his power turning out to be this nightmarish looking thing, and Luffy's ability turning out to be the literal embodiment of dreams, it's easy to say that Luffy's the one true king of the world. But as has been established, Luffy's not the type of person who wants this job. I can't picture Luffy drowning in paperwork like Naruto after becoming Hokage, or occupying the role of the Soul King like Ichigo was supposed to, so we shouldn't expect him to occupy the role of the one true king. But that doesn't mean he's not the rightful heir, you know? Either way, we could just easily pass this job off to Vivi. I'm pretty sure that's what most of the community wants anyway. But I think it's still necessary to mention this one bit at the end of Marineford because it really drives the point home of Luffy being the one true king. And that's when Whitebeard tells Teach that Roger's not waiting for him. It implies that he's waiting for someone like Luffy, the one true king of the pirates. And just to put the final nail in the coffin here, Red also states that one true kings tend to come preloaded with a happy ending. And what did we get last year? A reminder of Luffy's dream after he becomes the Pirate King. Something impossible and childish that could only barely be achieved if Luffy becomes the Pirate King. So, his happy ending. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is, Luffy, grow the fuck up. It's time. Your friends, your Nakama, all these people are waiting on your next move. So instead of acting like you're not the hero, take some of that fourth wall breaking that your awakening now grants you, read your own damn story. Pick up a couple of volumes if you really need to make sense of all this shit, because the jig is up. You're not a guy who acts heroic, you are the hero of the story. You know, it's time you started acting like it. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm very upset with myself that I couldn't get this out a lot sooner, but, you know, that's life. I'm doing what I can. Suck my dick. I'm doing what I can with my limited time, so until this YouTube shit starts to pay my rent, I'm gonna have to live with the fact that some videos are just not gonna get uploaded when I want them to. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I do have a couple of other video ideas. I had one more video that I was hoping to put out before the break ended, but obviously that didn't happen. Just look out for more One Piece content soon, and in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. You be safe.